Memorizing information does not make you smart. Why would you think that it does? Well, from my experience, I used to think that it made me smart. From my experiences in middle school, high school, and college, I learned that the way to learn, the way to be smart, was to memorize a bunch of information. Why memorize this information? Well, because when you had the multiple choice tests, you knew which bubble to fill in. You knew which one was the correct bubble, and when you would fill in the correct bubbles, you'd get a good score, maybe a 90, maybe an 85, maybe a 95, depending on your criteria of what good grades are. And so that really helped me in my educational experience get very good grades, almost straight A's. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to show you that I got straight A's because I memorized information to take these tests, and I didn't actually get any smarter, but I was kind of tricked into thinking that I was smart. I was kind of getting these ego strokes, these really good grades. Maybe the report card was telling me that I was smart, but I truly believed it. And then once I kind of had a rude awakening that, oh, maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was, because all I was doing was memorizing this information. Most of it was useless information that never applied into my life. And this rude awakening came through the form of depression and anxiety. And why does this make a difference, you might ask? Well, I thought that I was super smart, yet at the same time, I was struggling with my own mental health. I thought that I knew all this information that was extremely valuable and important, but I didn't understand my emotions. I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand how to improve my mental health. How could that be? How could that be that I spent thousands, hundreds or thousands of hours throughout school studying the stuff that I had learned that's supposed to help me in my life, but all it really did was help me get to the next level of this educational ladder where you climb up to the top and you think you're there, and then you just realize that you got to just go climb back down the ladder and start all over again. You start all over again because once you get there, it's never good enough. That's a whole different rabbit hole. But I really want to talk about this. Memorizing information does not make you smart. So on one hand, for people like me who spent college and high school and middle school memorizing information and doing really well on tests, you probably know firsthand what happens after that test is over. All of this information that you spent time clogging your mind with, an hour after that test is over, you probably will never be able to recall that information again. And why is it? Maybe your incentives were wrong. Maybe you were just doing it to get a good grade. In my perspective, I wanted to actually learn, but I was doing it to get a good grade. There's nothing wrong with doing it to get a good grade, but when it gets you to think that you're smarter than you are, then you have to take a step back. And on the other hand, this is also for the people who were not really good at memorizing information throughout middle school and high school and college, maybe didn't get as good of grades as me on those multiple choice tests, and for that reason, you somehow think that you're not as smart as other people. Or maybe you even had teachers tell you weren't that smart because you couldn't memorize this information and fill in these multiple choice test bubbles. Or maybe your parents told you weren't that smart. I want to tell you that that's not what intelligence is. There's so much more to intelligence than being able to memorize information. In the real world, being able to memorize information is pretty much useless. You can get not all of it, but you can get so much information at the tip of your fingertips, is that even a saying, from your phone. If you don't know the answer to something, you can Google it. Of course, you need to be able to have discernment and, what's going on here? You need to be able to have discernment and understand what is true, what is not, what is a good source of information, what is not. But even throughout school, we weren't taught this word discernment. We didn't go through our textbooks and say, is this a quality source? Are these people in this history textbook saying what actually happened? Or are they speaking from the victor's perspective? Maybe I'm not seeing both sides of the story. No, we weren't taught to discern and think critically like that. We were taught to memorize and clog our minds with information. Basically applied to any aspect of your life. Think about any aspect of your life. What do you need to memorize? Do you need to memorize people's phone numbers? I don't know. Do you have them in your phone? Do you need to memorize all of the emotions? Think about when you learn emotional intelligence. Do you need to know every single name of every single emotion? Or do you need to be able to introspect and ask, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? Maybe it's helpful to put a word. Maybe I'm feeling anger, or maybe I'm feeling excitement, or maybe I'm feeling anxious. Those words will usually come to you. You could even make up a word. The words don't actually matter. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. So many rabbit holes go down. But memorizing information does not make you smart. When is memorizing information ever going to help you practically in your life? The only time I can genuinely think about it is that if you are a contestant on Jeopardy. That's the only time memorizing all of this useless information, this basically trivia nonsense, is gonna ever do anything for you. And sure, people can make a lot of money on those shows. I'm not saying that they can't, but not normal people. Somebody like me, I don't think I could go on that show, and yet I was really good at memorizing information. But since I graduated college and I've kind of had this rude awakening about maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was, that was when I had to let go of everything that I thought I knew, return to this beginner's mindset, return to just a level of I don't know, genuinely opening up my mind, open-mindedness, being like, I don't know, please, somebody guide me. And throughout that, I've begun to learn far quicker than I ever did throughout school, throughout middle school, throughout high school, throughout college. I don't know. Maybe in Wolftelligence school, maybe we don't do memorization. Maybe it's all about a written assessment. How many written assessments did you ever have in school to actually show that you knew something? I mean, if you get a good grade on a multiple choice test, there's still a chance that you don't actually know any of the information, that you wouldn't be able to apply that information in real life. But if it's a written assessment or an oral assessment, you can't really fake that. The teacher can tell if you know your stuff or if you don't know your stuff, or if the assessment is just taking action and applying it in your real life. But again, how many of these things that you learn in school are actually going to be applicable to your real life? Probably none of them. Probably none of them, because the whole point is to go to a higher level of education. So I'm not saying that school's bad. School's cool. School's great. Wolftelligence school. Regular school, I enjoyed school. I didn't enjoy all the memorizing of information. And now you could say, well, you didn't have to memorize the information. Yeah, I didn't have to. If I didn't memorize the information, I wouldn't have gotten good grades. If I didn't memorize the information, I didn't get good grades, then people wouldn't have thought that I was smart. My teachers wouldn't have thought that I was smart. My parents wouldn't have thought that I was smart. And you could say, all right, what's the big deal? Why do you care if they thought you were smart? Well, first of all, my past self, my very egocentric, ego-driven self, I wanted that. I wanted that approval. I wanted that validation. Again, I didn't have a lot of self-esteem, so of course I wanted that approval and that validation. It wasn't coming from anyone else. It was coming from teachers and parents because of the good grades that I was getting as a result of me being able to cram a bunch of information in my brain and then recall it, bring it out, fill in the right bubble, circle, 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 and I did it. But why did I need that validation? Again, because I had very low self-esteem. I don't need that validation anymore. I realized that memorizing information is not doing me any good. And also, because I spent all of my time pursuing good grades, pursuing memorizing the stuff for tests, I didn't spend as much time on my social life. Didn't spend as much time on extracurricular activities. Didn't spend as much time introspecting, developing self-awareness. Didn't spend as much time cultivating my mental health, and as a result, I had poor mental health. Led me down the abyss of depression, led me down the path of going through anxiety as well, and I was trapped. I had so much arrogance build up. You could call it intellectual arrogance, egoic arrogance, but I just thought that I was really smart. I'm sure a lot of people think that this way as well. They get really good grades throughout middle school. They get really good grades throughout college. They get really good grades throughout whatever, graduate school, anything else. Getting good grades doesn't mean that you're smart, because most of the grades are just as a result of you memorizing information. Again, there might be a certain school that you went to where there were no multiple choice tests and it was all written. Then you probably are pretty smart if you were still getting good grades on that. I don't want this to feel like an attack. This is mostly just ranting, trying to make light of this, make a comedic sense out of it. I don't really know. I don't even know what I'm doing here, but memorizing information does not make you smart. If that's the one thing that you'll take away from this. I mean, as a title, maybe you'll take away something else from it. I don't know.